Oh wait, sorry guys. Let me take this for a second. Hello, games journalism. Okay, yeah, I really like what you guys did with mixtape. I think that 94 was a bit too high, so I'm really glad that it's currently 87. A bit, that's kind of on mid 80s, high mid 80s. Would have preferred like an 84, something similar to what we did. With that one game Julian got, that was a bit too high, but I really do appreciate, the sudden dip that you gave it. Okay. All right, so we'll talk about Grand Theft Auto in a few weeks, and we're good to go. All right, see you later.
Jaren.
What's up, Rakush?
You were on mic for that whole thing.
No, I wasn't, because the episode starts when I say greetings, friends, right? That's how it works, right?
That's how that works.
Okay. Great.
Whoa. Matt's part of the conspiracy now too.
Yo,
I see.
I hate woke video games, Rakush.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Mistake Zone. My name is Jaren Wade, who also loves woke video games. And I'm joined here by my best friends in the whole wide world. First off, Matt Alba, joining me this week. How are you doing, Matt Alba?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
That's great, Matt. Also joining me this week, got some good success last week in Fantasy Critic. What happened there, bro?
Jared, I feel like I owe you another apology this week, because last week I had that segment where I was talking about, apologizing to you in the first place for those accusations when I realized that Mixtape had a 96 as a debut score. I was like, oh, you know what? I was wrong. Jaren done got no poll like that. And then, hey, listen, it's dropped to an 87. We have you on tape. I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game.
I don't know what tape you're talking about because we just started recording a few seconds ago.
I'll make a mixtape of it for you.
Also joining me this week, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Julian. Hey, Julian.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Julian, I'm doing great because, last week in Fantasy Critic, it was sweating a bit, but I feel like all is right in the world right now. And
Julian seems a little bit lost in audio form about what's going on right now.
Not Julian knows. Julian knows because we've talked extensively about probably the main event for this week's episode of the Mistake Zone, and listening to Rakush and Matt, talk about the scores last week and just the curiosity that both of you had regarding this game. And actually, this is one of the rare times where all four of us have played the game in question. I know Mark has also played a bit, but unfortunately couldn't join us this week. But from what I've talked to him about, generally, at least from what I've been seeing, some positive just hands-on experiences with the game overall, but we'll get to that a bit later. But Rakush, I hear you also took a trip somewhere this week. How was your week this week?
Yeah, no, listen, long weekend time, gotta basically mentally unwind and physically recharge from busy work weeks. And so I get Fridays off at my job. It typically ends up being like a 4-day weekend for me, a little bit lucky like that. So on the Friday, I had to, drive from my area to our hometown of Mississauga for a couple of appointments. One for my teeth, one for my hair. Basically, getting a facial overhaul, if you will. Mm-hmm. But then, guys, I had a bunch of time in between those appointments, and I was kind of in the area of a local Ikea store. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm trying to live in the moment. The moment is in Ikea. Let me go to Ikea and get some food. And there was a bubble tea place nearby. I'd gotten that as well. So before I went for Ikea, I was like, oh, okay, I need to use the bathroom in Ikea. So, guys, I answer. And the bathroom in this Ikea is near the escalators that takes you up into, essentially, the chocolate factory. And then, guys, like, it was just sort of like a terrible feeling. Because I went into the bathroom and did whatever I had to do. And it was great. Like, in fact, Ikea's got these, like, paper liners for the seat and everything. Wash my hands. Soap was decent. And guys, then I go to dry my hands.
Mm-hmm.
They had Dyson hand dryers in a Swedish bathroom, guys. Dyson is British.
I think that's...
It was terrible, guys. It was heartbreaking. You're telling me there's no Swedish hand drying machine that is as good as a Dyson? SMH. This is what it must have felt like to veer off the chocolate factory.
Wait, what? Is the expectation that like like Swedish there would be like a high-tech Swedish air dryer?
I was kind of hoping they'd have some like product that's like, Hand or something like that with like an umlaut on an A or something, but no, it was just a Dyson.
And again, you guys can like correct me if I'm kind of speaking out of turn here. But when I think of Ikea, I don't really think of high quality. I think of like affordable but like okay quality.
Yeah, but ultimately Swedish.
I guess so.
Maybe it was a Swedish one, but it was, like Julian said, only okay quality. And there was like, 2 umlauts. Umlauts is the dots? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there was just like 2 umlauts on the O and it fell off and it was a Dyson or something. And it was a Swedish
Well, Matt, I
one.
got some bad news because my hands were perfectly dry afterwards, so it was a very authentic Dyson hand dryer.
Damn. Okay.
I was kind of sad, guys. I was kind of like, hey, wait a minute.
Guys,
This is not Swedish.
do you like the Dyson Airblade or, the Dyson hand dryers that are like built into the sink? Or do you prefer the standalone units?
What do you mean built into the sink?
Yeah, I've never seen the built-in the sink one.
You never see, I've seen ones where like the sink, like, coming out of the spout, there's like two handles that's almost like, like a motorbike or a bicycle or something. And those are the air blades. And it just blows like into the sink.
No,
Oh,
I've
that
never
sounds
seen that
fancy.
one.
Oh.
Yeah, I've
I
never seen
haven't
that, though.
seen the sink variant. I have seen the one where one of the theaters I frequent for watching movies has the mirror soap dryer combo where, it's just that big mirror lining all the sinks. And then on one side, it's the soap. And then on the other side of the faucet, it is the Airblade or, whatever brand is doing the hand dryer at that point. But never, I want to say I have seen a sink combo, but I think I'm more, the one I see most commonly is the one, aside from, of course, the standalone wall-mounted one,
Yeah.
the one that's attached to the mirror. But
So the one I've seen quite a bit of is the one where you put your hands inside the device,
Uh-huh.
and so it's blowing the water off of like both sides, sort of thing. So that's the one that this one had. In fact, it had both the wall one and this.
it's all gross. It's all gross to me. I need the paper towels.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I need to kill the environment.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, I feel that. At least, hey, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt here. They at least had like a wave to open the door thing, so like you're not just getting germs on your hand again. So that was kind of cool. But
Do you guys use that foot opening handle ever?
what?
Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm just like fucking imagining what bathrooms are because apparently I'm going to one, so you guys don't know how they work.
No, I
It's a foot
don't.
pedal.
I know what you're talking about, Matt, but like I
Okay.
feel like I'm never looking at foot level at any doors if they did have anything like that.
Okay.
Where no.
That just seems like a hole for rats to go in and out of. If I'm imagining it right.
Maybe
I
just
assume. Is it a button or is it like a?
It's like a reverse hook that you can basically like step on and like hook your shoe onto and then pull the door open. It's almost like what's that thing that you have on a horse, but so that your feet don't swing.
Is that the right use for that, or are you imagining like a door stopper?
Maybe it's a door stopper.
Have you been like using? Have you been like using a door stopper for like a door handle?
No, man. This whole time I'm just like just messing these things up for like the staff.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta get you out of the house a little bit more, dude. That's
I don't know. Matt seems to be going to the most bougie of places, so maybe he's the one who actually gets out of the house the most.
Maybe.
or maybe he's just watching like TikToks that have like these fancy bathrooms in like one restaurant in like Wisconsin or something.
There's like a custodian somewhere. There's a custodian somewhere now that's like, who keeps breaking these?
Oh,
man.
Boys, speaking about leaving the house, I left the house this week as well.
Ooh.
And
Whoa.
as we discussed, I think, what was it, last fall, where I am the number one Blue Jays bandwagoner,
Right.
here on the Mistake Zone because I love to bandwagon on anything going on right now. Boys, I went to Naruto Night at the Toronto Blue Jays versus whoever they were playing last Wednesday. Rakush, what does the Toronto Blue Jays as an organization hate Naruto? Because despite me getting a replica Blue Jays Naruto jersey and there being a bunch of cut-ins that you can take pictures of, or cutouts that you can take pictures of, during the whole 9 innings of baseball, not once was Naruto shown on any of the Jumbotrons. Not once was anyone speaking. No one said the words Naruto at all. There was no mascots on the field. And I believe when it was Dalton Varsho who hit the home run winner at the extra inning,
that's the one you went to.
He didn't run around the bases doing the Naruto run. Rakush, why is Toronto anti-Naruto?
Jaren, I think you might have lost track of what anime fans really are like, because we're all trying to hide our power levels. So the Jays are just trying to hide their power levels.
I want to shout out the Naruto cosplayers a few seats ahead of me. I also want to shout out the guy who sat directly in front of me, who came in decked out in his Blue Jays gear, opened his backpack, and took out a Naruto wig. That was pretty fun.
That's good.
Fantastic.
It actually looked like a helmet, but it was shaped as Naruto's hair. That was pretty good. Also, shout out so there's 3 rows ahead of us that was completely empty, and the people behind me were like, what the heck? I thought, why are 3 rows empty? Shout out to the school that was obviously there for a field trip, who came in at the 2nd inning, watched up until the 7th inning, and then had to leave because I assume there's bedtimes. Also, shout out that one girl doing homework. Guys, that's how you get ahead. That's how you get ahead in life here.
Nah, that's a tryhard. That's a tryhard. Kid doing too much.
So, yeah, that was... I'll admit, that was a specialty ticket that got you the replica jersey. Higher quality than I thought it would be. Higher quality.
Yeah.
So, shout out to... Rakush, do you have any specialty replica jerseys from any theme nights?
So, I hate the Jays, as has been, canonically proven on this show. But there is one I've been looking for from the Boston Red Sox, because they've been doing One Piece night every year. And there is actually a One Piece Red Sox collaboration jersey that someone actually wore to the opera thing that had gone to last year. And I was kind of like, can I rob this dude?
Rakush, that's like you as a jersey.
Yeah. It's everything that I want to be. Huh?
Where, I don't know, usually when I see these theme nights on social media, mostly Boston, LA, and even the Padres, when they did the Nikkei night, I feel like those are really involved. You'll see like mascots. I know when the Dodgers do the Holo Live nights, you have the talent singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Just all around really interactive activations, if you will. But with the Blue Jays, you just go in, you get your jersey, you can maybe take a picture of a cutout, and that's that. Was disappointed, especially when all the friends I went with are yelling to have some Naruto runs, and no one did that. No one got the memo.
No.
But overall, good jersey. Better than the SpongeBob one, in my opinion. Did you guys see the SpongeBob jersey?
The SpongeBob one looks really funny.
Oh, man. But, boys, I would have liked to see some Naruto running during the baseball game. But, is the Naruto run in Mortal Kombat at all, Rakush?
Honestly, there's not a lot of running in that movie. It's a fairly sort of just bulky people walking around sort of deal.
They did not build in time for you to have any scenes where you're walking anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't think that there's a single walking scene. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this movie in my head,
it's literally like walking from one room to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Or cutting to a person arriving at a location, which I have to admit is very on brand for Mortal Kombat story modes in modern Mortal Kombat games. Okay, so I know Matt's watched it. Jaren, did you end up going to the theater to watch this movie yet?
I went to the theater to watch Obsession, which I really recommend, but maybe I'll get into that a bit later. But I haven't seen Mortal Kombat, nor did see any of the popcorn buckets in the wild.
Yeah, the popcorn
Yeah.
buckets seem to have been sold out.
I was so sad.
yeah.
Well, I wasn't expecting to get a popcorn bucket, but I was so sad that I couldn't get a popcorn bucket.
It's crazy to me that like the popcorn buckets have become like the incentive to go watch a movie first day first show. Like that's I don't know. Like that's pretty interesting evolution of these things. It just kind of feels a little bit like those collector's editions that had statues for new franchises. Like, what are we doing here? I don't know.
I mean, I wanted that arcade machine.
It does look cool. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Matt.
Uh-huh.
Since you're the one that's watched it, where do you want to start with this movie?
Oh man, okay. Do you two care if we just like hard spoil this movie?
And
No.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a Mortal Kombat movie.
Okay.
Matt, did someone say get over here?
Yes, of course. Someone said.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a good delivery on that too. Actually, like
Yes.
I think they like built up to that moment very well.
Hmm.
All right, Matt. Let's go. Into it.
Okay. Okay, Rakush, you weren't in this memory, but Jaren and Julian were. And so, I'm going to exclude Rakush and the rest of our audience here when I say, if you guys remember how much we enjoyed the Dead or Alive live action movie, man, this is up there with it, I think.
Okay.
It is exactly up there with being just as bad of a movie, just as fun of a movie, and has about that exact same level of CGI.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That kind of sold me in a way that none of the advertisements actually did.
Matt, now that you brought it up, speaking of Mortal Kombat, would this movie have been better if Devin Aoki appeared in it?
Ooh. I mean, probably. I don't know what Devin Aoki is up to. I also don't know her cancellation status right now. So, maybe
Fair.
yes.
Me neither.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Okay. Honestly, yeah. Fun movie, man. Like, I think that I mentioned that last week. Just keep your expectations very low for what this movie is supposed to be, and you'll have a great 2 hours. I really liked how they handled all of the characters, except Quan Chi looked a little bit too dorky for me.
I like that Quan Chi was kind of dorky.
I don't know how you would do Quan Chi. Because, like, how would you make Quan Chi not look dorky? Because dude's just, like, in, like, whiteface the entire time, right?
Oh, I didn't consider him being in whiteface.
He is,
well, like, am I thinking of the Quan Chi's the sorcerer?
Yes.
Yeah. You got the right dude.
Yeah.
Okay. I think my issue is more so just, like, it feels like they artificially extended or prolonged his forehead a little bit in a way that makes him
bald.
look far too dorky. That's
It's
not
all
what I'm.
forehead.
That's not what I'm getting at. That's not what I'm
God.
getting at. Bald is one thing. It just feels like the actual bald part of his head starts at a later point than where the forehead ends, and I think like that's where I was sort of like, "Huh, this guy looks like a real dork." Which, hey,
The
maybe
only thing that gauges that is the hairline.
You guys just got to see it. I don't know. Like I don't know how else to describe it except he's got a big forehead, and it's not the bald part. But also, hey, maybe sorcerers of the Netherrealm or like the Outworld are the dorks of that universe. So yeah.
I have a question.
What's up?
So I watched the first one.
Yeah.
Not like because I wanted to, but I ended up doing it.
Not of your own free will.
Yeah, not of my own free
It
will.
was just there.
It was kind of like forced upon me one day.
Oh.
And I know the first movie really centered around like an original character, which was weird at the time because like at the time, like when I watched it, I was like, I feel like this could have been like Johnny Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it is like that young, like brash, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, like this, I feel like this is a weird, like, OC stand-in for like a character you could put in as Johnny Cage. And then this second movie came out, and Johnny Cage is actually in it now, but he's like older and it's Carl Urban, which is fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, what are you gonna do? Because like I feel like they kind of did the Johnny Cage thing in the last movie, even though it wasn't Johnny Cage. But now now actually named Johnny Cage is in this movie. So like, how does that work? Are there two Johnny Cages in this movie? Is that guy just this like he's not in the advertisement, so I assume He's not in the movie
No,
for a long time?
he's
Or he is?
he's there for a part of the movie.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, I made the comparison that they're gonna G.I. Joe Duke him from the second movie, where Channing Tatum gets written off and then The Rock becomes the protagonist. Yeah.
Okay. Is
It's
that pretty much
basically
like what happened? Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's basically what happens here. I think the way they handle Johnny Cage in this movie is different enough. It absolutely plays up sort of like, the washed up 90s action star sort of tropes and things like that in a way that you're still going to get a lot of the similar beats of like, oh, I don't know, guys, I'm just an average human. But then like it gets into the actual sort of like Mortal Kombat stuff. But yeah, also it like this movie entirely feels like a course correction from that first one into sort of like what it kind of is now, which is a lot closer to the source material. And in many ways, to me, that sort of feels like them reacting well to the feedback of the first movie. So props to them for that.
Because it feels like a weird undercut to me. Because like when I think of the Mortal Kombat reboot trilogy, like 9, X, 11.
Yeah.
The whole thing is like, it's very Johnny Cage focused. 9, he was very clearly that young upstart. But like in X and 11, they made a concerted effort to kind of like make him be the main character because he kind of grows and, he kind of becomes a bit more of a mature character. But like, it just now kind of feels like there's, and again, I didn't watch the second movie, but now it kind of just feels like you're kind of undercutting that arc or that story, if that's kind of what, but I guess maybe that's not what they're going for. Because is there even a clear protagonist in this trilogy, quote unquote? Yeah.
In this movie, at least, there is. So there's a couple of... I think that's a good sort of jumping off point. And Matt, like, maybe I'll kind of throw it to you for some of these things as well, right? But, like, this movie, to me, is very much made for a fan of the modern Mortal Kombat games. So anything from 9 onwards. The reason I say something like that is for a few things. The first one that comes to mind is that with these Mortal Kombat games, one of the, I want to say more sort of like fun little bits that comes up with the story modes is each chapter is a single playable character, right? And there's a certain sort of sense of like, ooh, who's going to be the final chapter? Who's going to save the day sort of thing. There's a lot of that happening with the second movie. It's a little bit more scripted than the games, sure, but I think like the story beats are kind of spread out well enough amongst all the characters that like it's not just the Johnny Cage story. In fact, I would say like it really like the marketing is the main reason it feels like a Johnny Cage story, but it's more of a Katana story than a Johnny Cage one. So in many ways, sort of like it's that. The other thing I wanted to mention or comment on that you brought up as well is the thing with modern Mortal Kombat games is the canon is whatever NetherRealm Studios decides it is, game to game. Like, you literally have a game that ends with Liu Kang becoming Fire God Liu Kang and resetting time and then just rebuilding the universe every single time based on how he wants it to be. So, yeah, as far as, like, canonical stuff, like, that simply doesn't bother me if it's like, oh, it's not like the game or whatever, right? Like, oh no, Johnny Cage is 50 years old while Liu Kang is still in his prime. Like, that does not bother me in that way. I think it's a decent enough sort of like, entry point for Johnny Cage into the story. They go in a decent enough direction with him. And yeah, like, I think like, I don't know, like it's kind of like, when we were talking about the Mario movie, I was kind of saying, like, yeah, I mean, things are what they are sort of thing. I would say a lot of, like, the story stuff here is also what it is. Like, it's not necessarily something that is worth, like, dissecting in, like, a fully detailed way or anything like that. But, like, the stuff I would definitely encourage, like, people who haven't watched it yet to go in sort of thinking about is the modern Mortal Kombat games. I think, like, that's kind of the main thing for me. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, honestly, the story in this game is buck wild. I feel like saying that anything in this story is canon is just crazy, dude. Like, okay, the way that they open, or one of the opening things in this movie that they drop is that Kung Lao from the first movie just got like off screen. He's just off screen, and then about like 3 minutes later, they're like, okay, here's Kung Lao. We're gonna bring him back as a zombie, and
Yeah.
so, and let me tell you, they also bring back Kano, and they very, very much cheapened what death is in this movie, and I am 100% sure that everybody who has died in this movie is going to be coming back in Mortal Kombat 3.
Yeah. And that's Mortal Kombat. Like, honestly, death really doesn't mean shit there, because, yeah.
And, I don't know, they really, really were like, you know what? We just need to really just set up some guide rails as to what the story is here. Because they really just did set up, okay, we're going to have 5 fighters on each side, and then we're going to make them fight for a very convoluted reason. They're going to teleport into the arena, so no need to walk anywhere for exposition or anything. This is this is straight up, hey, watch these fights that we decided to put together.
By the way, the convoluted reason is actually, weirdly enough, the one canonical thing that they did, which is that they have 10 straight tournaments, and if you win 10 straight, Shao Kahn can take over that realm. So there's one tournament left for Earthrealm, and so it's sort of like a last little hurrah, or Hail Mary situation to bring in Johnny Cage.
Which is weird. Didn't they win the tournament in one?
I don't even think there was a tournament in one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think there was a tournament. I think it was just like a collection of people.
They were just jumping each other. That is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't think it was like a formal tournament.
Okay.
I don't recall. Yeah,
I really kind of feel like that first movie was trying to go a little bit in the route of that web series from the early 2010s, where it's like Mortal Kombat, but cooler and more serious, right? Like, it's actually the thing that Mark was potentially describing when we were comparing Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And I think the first movie was very much trying to be that, whereas the second movie, again, it's such a course correction. They're like, listen, man, people just want to see the Mortal Kombat characters. Just give them the combat characters. And I think that works out fine here.
This movie, to me, had a lot more fights in it than I was expecting. I was expecting maybe 3 or 4, just big fights, but this just had more so a bunch of smaller fights, just peppered throughout it everywhere. I don't think there's a constant 10 minutes where you go without a fight in this movie, and this is hour 30-ish. It's definitely not more than an hour 45. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was 2 hours, but
was it? Oh man,
I'm gonna look.
We just had a lot of fun watching this movie.
Hour 56.
Oh man. Oh god. Okay, I guess I had a lot more fun with this movie than I thought.
I actually think it could have used maybe an extra fight or two just to kind of pad up the middle scenes a little bit.
Who would you wanted in a fight? Because who would you want in a fight? Because I feel like everybody fought a decent amount, except for maybe Sindel.
Okay, let me actually correct myself. I don't know if it needed more fights, but this ties into my only criticism of this movie is that the scale of things didn't necessarily feel as grand as an entire realm being at stake sort of thing, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like a lot of the fights kind of just happen, and without an audience for the fights, which I understand, the arenas in the game as well don't have an audience except for you, the player sort of thing. But it does sort of feel a little bit anticlimactic when these fights just kind of happen, and spoiler alert, Cole Young gets his head bashed in, and he gets basically swept into the acid bath of that stage. Extremely disrespectful way to write that character off. It was fantastic.
Is it the same actor?
It's the same actor.
Yeah, same actor.
Oh, wow. I'm curious how they convinced him to come back for that.
I
mean, he's not exactly.
I think.
Yeah. Also, he's not a renowned actor. I don't think he's going to be talking about oh my god, you're disrespecting my character.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the other part as well is sort of when that happens and the whole teleportation thing is at play, when he doesn't come back, there's literally just a 5-second scene of Jax and Sonya being Cole didn't come back. And then they just move on to the next thing. It was honestly kind of great how they just wrote him off a little bit haphazardly, but It was just done. They're like, get this fucker out of the way.
Dude,
like,
the
move on to the
story-
next shit.
The story moves like at an insane like pace, I think, because
Yeah.
like
So so that's where I think that extra 10 minutes could have maybe helped out a little bit.
nah,
But,
nah,
yeah.
nah.
That's fair. Like, there are absolutely moments where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Like, I think you and I were talking about Kung Lao getting off screen.
Yeah,
And wanting that maybe at the start. But I kind of get it. You just want to, like, disappear him and he comes back as a zombie. It almost feels like you're literally being dropped in the middle of a crisis sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, that's cool. Like, I thought it was neat.
Also, yeah. Going back to the Kung Lao thing. Like I said, at the very start of the movie, Kung Lao gets killed, and they say that he gets killed because he just got like jumped by it's not Netherrealm who they're fighting against. What's the
Outworld.
Yeah, they get jumped by like just like Outworld people, and then like midway through the movie, Raiden gets jumped by Outworld people. I'm imagining the exact same way, and the fact that they didn't set up some kind of contingency to not get like anti
For Outworld jumping. Yeah.
Like,
they can just
get a security guard.
Yeah, they can oh man, they specifically say like you can't teleport into like Shao Kahn's castle because he has like precautions against it, and these dudes just like jump Raiden real hard by doing that. And
Also, honestly, odd character for Raiden to not learn his lessons.
Yeah,
if there's
probably.
one thing about Raiden from the games that I know, it's that he refuses to learn his lessons. And the one time he does is the one time where he ends up kind of turning into evil Raiden and being like, oh, shit hits the fan. It's great.
Also, okay,
Fuck, man.
there is a fight towards the end where obviously Shao Kahn and Liu Kang are going to fight.
Oh, that one, yes. Yeah.
Y'all, this fight ends fucking crazy because technically neither of them lose this fight, I think. What happens is Liu Kang is like, nah, fuck this. I gotta go deal with my homeboy, Kung Lao, and he turns into fire and he flies away. And
so here's the thing. He actually gets shanked by Shao Kahn.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, he's gonna die, right? But then, like, as that happens, he, like, awakens the fire god stuff or whatever. And then he, like, melts the handle off. And yeah, he just straight up, like, poochies away.
Dude,
like,
yes.
it is the best thing in the world.
My planet needs me. I must go.
Oh my God.
Like,
just
Wait,
like
actually fire god stuff or just like fire?
it's like the early fire god stuff. Yeah, it's like he's not full blown.
So is it? Wait, and then is this after? Is this after MK1?
No. Again, not canonical to the games. Like, just
Okay,
it's its own thing. All I'm saying is like, he has the fire powers basically that like awaken at like a more heightened level stuff. That's kind of like what we're going with.
Okay,
the fire god
I was like
stuff
the fire god stuff. Like he needed to like kill Kronika for that.
Exactly.
But I'm like I should really stop trying to like shoehorn this into it.
No, and okay,
the games are very different.
I want to also paint a little bit around this because what's happening in that moment is that it's basically like Liu Kang and Sonya versus Shao Kahn. And at this point, Shao Kahn, as far as they know, is immortal. So Liu Kang just dips and he just leaves Sonya to deal with immortal Shao Kahn because he has to go like.
Also important to state. Final fight of the entire tournament. If they lose this, Earthrealm loses.
Liu Kang just like fuck.
Liu Kang just fucking pieces out.
Is that how the movie ends?
No. It's not the
okay, I was like, does it stop with Liu Kang just like dipping?
No,
I would have lost my shit if that happened.
Like in context, it's wild that he just leaves because like prior to that, what happens is that they're trying to like get rid of Shao Kahn's immortality, and they are at a state where they are like I would say like failing, like as far as from Liu Kang's like perspective would be like they are failing to remove Shao Kahn's immortality, and then they get like teleported away because of like tournament mechanics. So like the I guess like B plot at that current time is okay, let's go remove Shao Kahn's immortality. Liu Kang does not know what the fuck's going on there, and he just like dips. He's like, fuck this, I'm a dip, I'm gonna go do my own thing, and then he goes to like whatever. Who was it? It's like Kano, Johnny Cage, and Scorpion just fighting Noob Saibot or something. Which honestly, I really like that fight. That setup for the fight and the Kung Lao versus Liu Kang fights, I think were like the best fights for me technically. And then I was very, very surprised at the amount that I liked Baraka in this movie.
Baraka was great. Before we move on to Baraka, I also just wanted to talk about Scorpion right quick because I absolutely love how like the introduction for Hanzo Hasashi is he's in the Netherrealm, but like he's so at peace that like he's turned it into a flower garden. And the second that Kato mentions Bihan, the second he mentions it, he's like Hanzo Hasashi's like, I'm Scorpion, let's go kill this fucker. Like, everything deteriorates right in front of you. Like, it happens in 5 seconds. I love how they just captured in 30 seconds the blood feud that is happening between those two as, like, it is never ending. I absolutely loved it. That was fantastic. And so, like, they did even, like, everything for, like, the quick appearing characters quite well there as well. Like, it honestly just fit the entire theme of, like, those Mortal Kombat games, like, quite perfectly. Like, you just sort of like teleport from one place to the next, and then you just sort of like find this new character, new chapter starts, and then like that's kind of how it goes. I loved it.
It really lines up.
Is Bihan Noob Saibot in this movie or still Sub-Zero? Okay.
I think he always is Noob Saibot.
Well, he's like Sub-Zero 1.
Yeah.
The very first. Yeah. And
but
like
then
the
he
first
turns
movie, right?
into, or is turned into Noob Saibot in the
Saibot,
Netherrealm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is Sub-Zero 2 in this movie?
He's
Or
not.
No.
So I'm
So there's
kind of
no
hoping he
Sub-Zero in
shows
this
up.
movie.
Yeah, I'm hoping he shows up in the third movie because I'm fairly confident there will be a third movie just because, I don't know, the movie was fun enough.
I definitely think there's a third movie. I do wonder if Sub-Zero... Okay, I wonder if Sub-Zero 2 would make it instead of them trying to like put Frost into it.
Oh yeah, that's also a choice.
See, I think like having a second Sub-Zero that gets along with Hanzo Hasashi is probably like a good ending to that story.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of feel,
That usually happens in the games, I think.
Yes.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't recall. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it might be sort of worth like having that entire thing play out and just that's the finale to that story. So, yeah. But Matt Baraka, that cool character, cool. I honestly feel like he had really cool makeup as well. Like it looked a little bit tacky, but like in a way that's like intentionally tacky.
The effects for everything in this movie really lined up with each other with how like I don't want to say subpar, but like about par that you would like expect for I guess like this type of movie.
Yeah. Also, okay. One of my favorite things about this movie is how aware it is that it's based on a 2D fighting game, right? So there's 2 instances where they go into a 2D fighting view. One is with Shao Kahn and Cole Young, and that's in sort of like the classic acid level. And even if you like take a look at some of the stuff at the very top of the frame, it looks like it's like pipes, but it's actually shaped like the health bars of the Mortal Kombat game. So like that was pretty neat. And then the second time that they did it was with Baraka when he was about to fight Liu Kang. And it turns into a Johnny Cage fight. But like they do this thing where they go into 2D view and the aspect ratio starts to slightly sort of like expand outwards, almost like the video games always do it, where it's going from a cutscene to a fight. So it's like even just like a very subtle thing like that is so aware of like the modern games. And it's things like that where I'm sort of like, I think playing or watching the story for one of the modern Mortal Kombat games will take you a long way in enjoying this like second movie.
Is Melina in this movie?
She's not.
Surprisingly, no.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna be in this, but they basically replaced her with Jade. I feel like the role she would have played with Jade.
I could see Melina in the third movie.
Yes.
As like a revenge plot, like I could definitely see that.
I could definitely see that.
I guess like Matt, are there any other characters that are worth talking about? Like Jax exists for the one-liners. It was kind of tacky and great. Sodia kind of exists. Sindel's there.
I like
Shang Tsung.
Yeah, Shang Tsung is not doing. Shang Tsung is just like chilling. If he doesn't do something big in 3, I like this character basically didn't really do much throughout the whole franchise.
I do love when he went to like attack Raiden when like Raiden was almost dead, and then like Raiden somehow gets his powers back, and it's like you're supposed to be dead. Raiden's like, and you should be running.
Yeah,
That's
good
great.
goof.
So good.
Guys, the actress who plays Katana to me kind of looks like Olivia Munn, and it was really throwing me off the whole movie.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Which, yeah. I mean, considering she played Psylocke in that X-Men movie, something I try not to think about. Olivia Munn's unfortunately not the best actor.
Is she not? Oh, okay. Well, it really,
I don't think so.
having fake Olivia Munn in here really brought me into the video game aspect of this movie. But yeah, like I think
fun movie.
Yeah, like this movie was like a really, really fun watch for me. It had a lot of like fun fights in it. Johnny Cage punches a dick. Like that's about all I was really expecting out of this movie.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It captures everything, right? Like I think Julian's reaction to the spoilers is very apt. Like honestly, it's got the greatest hits, man. Like it's great. Even like Johnny Cage's introduction with that fake 90s movie was fantastic. Like everything about it was super fun, like super chill. Like the 2 hours went by before I even knew it. Like yeah, like the complaints that I would have are so sort of like minimal in the grand scheme of things and would honestly potentially take away a little bit from the charm of the movie. But like, yeah, this is fine. Like it was great. I highly recommend it to both like Julian, you, and Jaren as well. Go watch it. Jaren, you haven't asked us any questions through this entire segment. Any questions on your end?
No, not really. I think I've had a few opportunities to actually watch the movie or buy tickets, but instead we ended up seeing Obsession. We have tickets to the Gundam movie tomorrow, so I think this is one of those we'll probably wait till it's on streaming type movies. I know when Mark told me about him watching the movie, I asked, would you watch this over Devil's Wear Prada 2? And he was like, no. And I haven't watched The Devil Wears Prada 2, so that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. But
hey, what if Shao Kahn wears Prada?
He could. I've seen some of the media the actors have been doing. Good media.
Yeah.
Good media.
Yeah.
And
what Gundam movie is coming out tomorrow?
Whatever has SZA as the OP, I think. All I know is we're the only two people in the theater right now for our showing.
Nice,
so take that for what you will.
That'll be fun.
Real quick, I did watch the new horror movie Obsession. If you're looking for a Yandere movie, I do recommend. This is actually to be a bit more serious, this is actually has dethroned the drama as probably my favorite movie of the year, especially if you're looking for a more psychological horror that still has its fair share of camp. I think the cinematography here is great, just the way they utilize the framing of one scene and then how they kind of go back to similar framing throughout the movie, just to kind of play with or subvert your expectations. I really do recommend. Not sure how much you guys are horror buffs, but I do think this movie is definitely worth checking out. So if this is up your lane, do recommend. But we're speaking about throwing fisticuffs. Real quick, I purchased the early access version of Dead as Disco. And Matt, this was something we talked about during one of the previous Steam Next Fests. Just to kind of quickly review, Dead as Disco is essentially this 3D brawler that stars someone named Charlie Disco, who looks like he'd be, not best friends, but friends with Travis Touchdown. Boys, this is a very Suda51 coded game. And the whole, I guess, premise of the game is you play as Charlie, who is this dead rock star. And for one night, he's able to go back and confront basically all his former bandmates and then you kind of unravel the story of why he's dead and, the closure he wants to get by facing all these, people of his past. And this is a very music heavy game where a lot of the attacks are really coming at you to the beat of the song. So a lot of the, at least single player aspects, while the full story mode isn't implemented, it's a lot of essentially choreographed levels that are really in tune to the music that they choose for the game. So when you first look at your story selection, it kind of looks like it's straight out of a Mega Man game where, you have your 9 block grid. You pick who you want to fight, and then you're kind of going through these, curated musical experiences that are to the beat. And then when you finally get to the boss fight, they're playing around with different mechanics, which are essentially beat maps in a way, where even though you might be trying to attack something, you might have a block or counter string that really kind of resembles a rhythm game at points as well. So it's one of those games where, at least with the single player components, it's something that is handcrafted, something that is a spectacle. But kind of once you finish those levels, that's kind of all there is to kind of experience. Maybe you want to replay them just to have, a no-hit run or something that's more fluid. But again, it's once you've experienced the spectacle, you can't really go back to it with a fresh set of eyes unless you have purpose to do so. But this is a 3D brawler, kind of akin to the combat we've seen, popularized by the Arkham game. So, you have your base, your attack, your counter button, and, special attacks that you unlock for beating each of the individual bosses. And I think the biggest part of this game is the fact that you're able to import your own MP3s. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of, just fight out to your own music library. And I think that's what I'm treating this game as sort of like, going back to growing up, and then we had our Windows Media Player visualizers, where I'm just finding myself uploading MP3s and kind of seeing what really works. You do have an advanced editor tool that lets you import a song and then kind of go into the specifics of, just seeing the whole wave track and editing, what the BPM is, or if you want a certain section to be a bit faster or slower, where, this is going by BPM. And I don't know about you guys, but for a lot of the songs, I want the beat to be on, say, the lyrics, or not necessarily the drums, but maybe to follow along with the guitar or any of the other backing instruments. And I think that's what I'm trying to play around with. Just, I wish the advanced editor was a bit more intuitive, where I could maybe I can do this and I just haven't figured it out just because the onboarding isn't the best. But my goal is to take a subsection of a song and then plot the beat points of, I just want it to hit on the lyrics. But then that kind of makes me just want a proper set of wired headphones, just because, as we all know, playing on Bluetooth with a rhythm game isn't the best experience. But I've been having a good time with Dead by Disco. And Matt, I know this was something we talked about, during Steam Next Fest. Is this, now that it's kind of out in early access, have you been seeing anything about this game, or is it gone up on your radar since?
I mean, it's been getting pushed to me every so often with, of course, I feel like any new rhythm game, if you have anime in your video algo, it'll get pushed to you of just people doing, hey, here's anime song in new rhythm game. And I don't know, like, aesthetically, that's like very, I don't know, funny to see. But when I was kind of watching it, it didn't, I don't know if they were using customized beat maps, or if they just used, like you said, the game generated beat maps, but I wasn't really all that impressed by it when I was watching it.
So the thing with importing your own songs is it doesn't automatically find the BPM for you. I think at the very least you need to look up the BPM of a song and then have to actually edit it in the advanced editor at the base level. You can just like flip a toggle and then enter the number point. But yeah, I feel like what I really want to see is people actually going in, using the tool to kind of map it out better, just because, to be honest, I've imported like a dozen tracks, looked up the BPM, set it, and just go from there. And only like 2 have felt like good to play, quote unquote. And even then, there's a section of drums or vocals that I wish hit a bit more when I got to that section. So I really think this is something that you need to play around with. And I'm not sure if they're going to go about some sort of sharing method to share kind of configurations for certain songs. In an era of like Clone Hero and all these other online games, you think that might be an avenue people explore in the future. But for what it is, Dead as Disco, I am still just treating it as a visualizer. While some of the story stuff is good, not fully there yet. But sometimes I just want to wind down, play the new Kira song, have and just punch a few people for like 3 minutes, then go about my day. But Rakush, does this do anything for you based on what you've heard?
I mean, the art style looks pretty cool. I remember kind of talking about this a few months back, but I mean, I might check it out. Like, I might check videos out is what I mean by that. But yeah, like, it seems like a little bit of a, unique try at a game.
Yeah. And definitely I think the word of mouth is going by a lot. And boys, I don't know how I feel about reading comments that are just dragging Hi-Fi Rush at this point, where I'm reading a lot of comments of, oh, this is the better Hi-Fi Rush, boys.
Did people not like that game?
That's kind of mean. That's kind of mean. I liked Hi-Fi Rush. Julian, did you play Hi-Fi Rush?
I did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seemed
I
interesting. I don't know.
Personally. But yeah, that's Dead as Disco Early Access now. They do have a roadmap, but I believe full release is slated for sometime in 2027. But boys, speaking of music-based games, boys, I think there is one thing that has been the talk of the town as of late. And if it wasn't obvious from the introductory phone call that I took,
see, it was on
the show.
tape.
Allegedly,
got him
in the beginning.
Got
of
him
the
in
show.
4K.
So Mixtape has come out, and you guys talked about this last week on the episode. Came out to some raving reviews, and since then the Open Critic has dropped from that high mid 90s to kind of high mid 80s, and I think not necessarily sure how much we want to talk about kind of that discourse. Maybe we can mention a bit later just because it was a bit tired. But Matt, you asked last week that, or you said last week that, you were really curious to also get your hands on this game just to see essentially what the hubbub is. And Rakush said the same thing. And this is something that Julian and I have been talking about, on and off throughout the week. Boys, I come to you this week as a professional mixtape player.
Okay.
I have 10 hours under my belt.
10 hours?
I have completed the game twice.
Oh, okay.
I have all the achievements.
What? It does not take 10 hours to finish this game twice. What?
Yeah, you can take 10 hours.
To kind of preface this, the first time I quote unquote played through Mixtape is I watched my partner play through the whole game. Just because I think this is definitely
a TV show? Yeah,
game.
I agree.
Yes. And I wanted to kind of play it one more time just to kind of control everything and, clean up all the achievements. I'm just going to get this out of the way. 2 achievements seem really bugged in this game where it took me a lot longer to actually do them than I would think, just because I don't think it tracks them properly. The 2 achievements I'm talking about are, do you guys remember the level The Run where Stacy is trying to run to Heaven 11 to, warn Cassandra that her father is coming?
Yeah.
There's essentially an achievement for not missing any of the different obstacles and essentially doing a perfect run.
Oh.
There was one instance that I thought I honestly did this section like half a dozen times, because there's this one segment, I'm not sure if you guys remember, where she slides over the yellow car in front of that house.
Yeah.
That's actually an obstacle that you have to jump over. And for the longest time, I didn't realize that was supposed to be an obstacle. So that was one thing. And then the second achievement was the coastal drive, where you get the achievement for triggering all the different fireworks. That took me also just as long as the run, because there's that one instance at the end where there's a whole bunch of fireworks you have to trigger at once.
Yeah.
And even though the game tells you have to hit the triggers or the bumpers, kind of looking it up,
you can use those.
People are just saying you have to spam the X button there because the triggers won't actually trigger all of them.
You can also trigger them with the left thumbstick.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That would have been a lot more easier on my that. I was sweating there. This was bringing me back to Prime Mario Party when we were teens, and I got a callus on the middle of my palm.
Yeah.
If you know.
Classic.
But I'm still kind of gathering my thoughts, so I will throw it to our friend Julian, which we talked about extensively throughout the week. And I know you have kind of a lot of layered thoughts on the game itself. But Julian, to start us off, what did you think of the game Mixtape?
I mean, I guess I'll just start broadly, I guess, like for listeners and stuff. Just a quick overview. Like Mixtape is like three friends, and they are well aware that it's gonna be their last time together. So like Stacy Slater, I think is the
it's Stacy Rockford.
No, sorry, the names. The names
Stacy
of the
Slater
three
and
friends.
Cass. Sorry.
Yeah. Stacy Slater and Cass. They're well aware that it's their last day together. So they kind of have this whole plan where they go to each other's homes and then end up at a party. And then basically the game kind of introduces its conceit pretty early on. Stacy talks about the idea of how in concerts they create mixtapes to remember the hits, and to kind of like try to like time out the events before kind of like the main event, quote unquote. So it's kind of like for her it's kind of like this two-fer thing of like timing like this day they have planned, but also kind of remembering the hits, quote unquote. And it is kind of like that conceit of this idea of like it is the last day of like high school. They're gonna kind of go their separate ways. They're going to basically like the main event, quote unquote, like is gonna start. Like the rest of their lives is gonna kind of happen. So the gameplay pretty much is like it's like Matt kind of like hinted at it, but it is more or less like a TV show ish. I came in thinking it was gonna be like a Life is Strange, where you are kind of playing these characters through a story of like an introduction to an ending. But that's kind of like not really what happens. It's more, I think I mentioned this to Jaren, but I feel like it's closer to a WarioWare game where you are essentially going to these places, looking at an item that reminds you of a memory, and that memory is tied to a specific song, and then you kind of play through a moment. And it is kind of like talking a lot, like, a lot of the times it is kind of talking about the idea of like the hits of a friendship. Like it is this idea of like, for me it is kind of like, as I was playing through it, it was a kind of a meaningful message because like it does, in a lot of ways, I think it does kind of like go into that idea of nostalgia. And it is kind of more prevalent as I grow older where, like unfortunately I'm pretty old now. So like there are memories, like my memory isn't as good as it used to be.
Not that old. Like we're old, but not like really old. Like you're making it sound like we're a bunch of 70-year-olds recording a podcast.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I think for me is like, I think like last year, like this year, I think I am as old as I remember my father being. In the case of like when I think about my dad in high school, when I think about like my father, like I think I am now technically at the age of like when, like it would be around the time of like that age of like when I was kind of like in that rebellious like teenage phase, regardless of the fact that I wasn't very rebellious. So I think for me, like when I was thinking about this, it is kind of those broad strokes of like there aren't very clear memories of me when I think about high school. But I think for me, when I think about high school, I still remember kind of the feelings. Like there are, like for example, like in that hallway when I was fighting with my girlfriend in high school, and Matt and Jaren came out of nowhere and started throwing bread at me. I don't remember the exact details. I don't remember every single thing, but I remember the feeling of it. And like, there's kind of like those moments of that growing up where you don't really recall the fine details, but you kind of remember like how you felt in the moment. And I think that's kind of like what Mixtape is trying to evoke. It is kind of like that idea of like the feeling of these songs, the feeling of these moments. And it's kind of like transcended in that gameplay. So like there is like that early scene where they're walking to their clubhouse. And instead of just them walking, it is kind of that thing where they kind of like run in the fields and they kind of start flying. And they kind of start like, doing like backflips and shit. And like on some level, you would be like, this isn't probably what's actually happening, but this is probably what they are feeling in the moment. And I think that's kind of like what is, you know, like what it's trying to kind of evoke. And I think that is kind of like the main conceit of it, is this idea of like what we kind of carry forward with us, you know, like as we kind of grow older, as we kind of remember. There's things we don't really remember clearly, but I feel like there will always be times where we kind of remember certain things of how we felt and how we, you know, how people kind of interacted in our lives, how people kind of like went in our lives, went out of our lives. You know, like I feel like that's kind of what it's trying to recall or kind of like evoke. So I don't know, like I think I was playing, I think for me it was pretty like positive, but I think like as I kind of sat with it afterwards, it's been pretty like up and down for me. So I don't know. I think for me, like that's kind of like the main thing, but I know I have a bit more like critical lens towards it, but I think I'm gonna start with something more positive. So maybe I'll just throw it off to someone else first before I kind of get too critical about it.
But yeah, I think to your point, they even admit so in the game, where it was after the shopping cart section or that level, where right after it ends, Slater says, at least that's how I remember it, where this is definitely a game that is playing on, you know, fantasy and, you know, that coming of age, getting to know yourself and how you see yourself compared to others, where I think I have a lot of mixed feelings on the game as well, but get ready for to roll your eyes a lot, boys, because I know I said this to you, Julian, because this is such a romantic game where I feel like I can only talk about this game in, you know, with that same sense of a romanticism, where I think at its core, I do agree this as a quote unquote game, Mixtape is like a 7, a generous 8, where I can fully acknowledge that this game feels like it was created in a vat just for me.
I know he docked 3 points because he didn't do the Naruto run through the fields.
Yep. I had to. But I feel like this game checks an absurd amount of boxes in terms of my interests, hobbies, and general taste in media, production, etc. Where, boys, to get into my Stacy bag, in 2007, English indie band The Go Team released an album called Proof of Youth, where I feel like that name has always stuck with me. And for almost 20 years later, I think I finally get what that name means to me, where the reason I adore Mixtape is because it's exactly that. It's this vehicle, as Julian was kind of saying, it's a vehicle of reflection that solidifies the fact that I was fortunate and privileged enough to be able to emphasize and relate to these characters, where it's a reminder that I had a, for the most part, fulfilling high school experience. I had a fulfilling university experience where, you know, no matter how big or small those memories are, you know, they're still yours, and I'm still grateful to have. Where on paper, I don't know Stacy, I don't know Cass, I don't know Slater, and I don't think their experiences presented throughout this 3-hour game are, you know, the end all be all of the general teenage collective experience. But I know parts of Stacy, I know parts of Cass, I know parts of Slater, and I know parts of the experience overall, where kind of to relive these feelings puts into perspective how long you've actually been alive and how desperately you might want to experience or re-experience those memories. Where, Rakush, I know what you're saying. We're not quote unquote old, but we're further from that time period than how old we were in that actual time period.
I mean, yeah,
which is
I sneezed and almost threw my back out. So yeah, we are old. Just the way Julian made it sound, it's like we're 70s. So yeah,
boys, I've never ridden a shopping cart on a highway, but we raced them after eating at a Chinese buffet where we undertipped because we were a group of 20 and we were teenagers without any money and they were really mad at us. Where, you know, I've taken care of drunk friends at parties. I've gotten slushies with friends. Boys, after we played that slushy mini game, my partner looked at me and said, should we go get slushies? And we went to get slushies, and the cap we put was too small, and we ended up spilling slushy all over the counter. So, it's, I don't know. I think this is a long-winded way of saying that I admire the fact that Mixtape knows exactly what it is. And I think the fact that the developers outwardly said, there's no streamer mode in this game, because if we were to replace any music with, general music, that takes away from the experience it's trying to present. Where this game might not be mechanically sound, it's still a love letter to youth had, to the friend, as corny as it is, to the friends along the way, and kind of how even as teenagers, these problems might seem so overblown to us now, but that's your whole world when we were 20 years ago. And, as evident by kind of the high scores that this game initially received, I feel like a portion of that gaming landscape desperately wants kind of that back, where this game isn't for everyone, but if it is for you, I can see why people adore it. But, maybe you're not looking for that sense of reflection. Maybe you don't want to stare into this oddly specific mirror, because again, it is oddly specific. But if that is something you want to do, I can't recommend this enough. This is one of those games where I do want to recommend to a subset of friends who I think would feel something for it. And for those that don't, there are a plethora of other games that you might want to check out instead. But Rakush, this is something you also got your hands on. Kind of what were your experiences with Mixtape?
Honestly, I'm kind of glad that you and Julian went first as well, because I think you guys captured a lot of sort of like the feeling about from this game in a beautiful way, right? And I think like Julian, hearing you talk about sort of like that moment in high school where like Matt and Jaren are like throwing bread at you while you're having an argument. That's a beautiful memory in like, because hey, we survived it, right? Like the whole thing about nostalgia is we survived it. But I also like remember, and a little bit of inside baseball for listeners, Julian and I for like a lot of the 10th and 11th grade at least, we're not talking to each other because of some stupid shit on my end, right? Which like in the moment was very much sort of like, wow, the world fucking ended. And when I kind of think back to those days, I don't necessarily have as fond a memory of it as much as my nostalgia might make me want to feel sort of like, positive about those experiences. I struggled. I honestly did. And so like when I play a game like Mixtape and I still feel that sort of like, positive emotion come through, I always have to kind of sit with it and figure out sort of like what exactly is it about like media like this that really sort of like, just resonates with me. And one thing I tend to conclude all the time is a lot of these stories are aspirational in some ways, where like I wrote down a list of some of these like, just coming of age stories that this movie, I almost called it a movie, but Mixtape reminds me of.
Not wrong.
Again, yeah, not wrong. And more on that in a bit as well, right? Because I do want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was thinking about Freaks and Geeks. I was thinking about Wonder Years. Thinking about Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, like those John Hughes movies.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller, like in terms of editing. And stuff.
Massive.
Yeah.
I was even thinking about like Lady Bird, which is a more recent movie as well. And it is a more modern coming of age story that has a similar plot point of someone wanting to leave a California town, Sacramento, for New York. Honestly, pretty much the same story here, right? And I think, like, there's some things that I can directly relate to. This feeling of, like, being in a town where you have friends, but you might not have the most positive memories. And so you kind of want to get out of that town to go and find yourself a little bit, right? Which is what is happening with Stacy in this entire story, is sort of like, my career, my future, my passion is in New York, so I need to go there. And then, of course, like one piece of tension about this entire story is like this road trip that essentially she needed to bail on in order to go and sort of follow her dreams there. But like, that's a very relatable feeling because, and like, you guys have talked about it a little bit, like, hey, we're now 36. We have quite a bit of time between high school. Our half our life is like, it's a half lifetime ago, right? Like we graduated when we were 17. So yeah, like it's crazy. But I think, like, I was mentioning this earlier, like, driving to my hometown of Mississauga, right? Like, I personally don't love living in Mississauga because I just kind of feel like it's a little bit limiting as far as, like, what is it that I want to do with my life and stuff like that. And so, like, that feeling of wanting to leave your hometown is very prevalent. However, at the same time, whenever I come back to Mississauga, it's very natural. It's very much home, right? Like, I show up, Matt, I'll come hang out with you. We know exactly where we want to go after that. I'm talking about, like, you know, going and grabbing candy and, you know, shit from the supermarket. But, like, there's those comforts that are absolutely there, right? But then it's a situation where multiple things can be true. And I say all this to say, I really, like, that part of Mixtape resonated with me a ton. This idea of wanting to sort of, like, leave, even though, like, you know, your friends and, like, family and stuff, like, you know, you have such a sort of, like, strong bond with them, right? Like, I don't know how much into spoilers we're getting with sort of, like, the final plot points and stuff like that, but the way the final, let's call it, chapter was handled was beautiful, right? Like, the goodbyes were handled very beautifully. And I think, like, there's a lot of that really resonates with me about just sort of, like, how Johnny Galvatron, who's the writer of this game, kind of, like, captured a lot of those elements. And yeah, so, like, you know, I think, like, it is very much, like, you know, a standard coming of age story that is told, right? Like, it hits all of the tropes of those stories. You have a verbose, angsty high school teenager as a protagonist. You have the small town. You have a semi-unreliable narrator. You have a bootstraps the antagonist in Cass's dad. You have all these products that are there as nostalgia bait, even though, like, the eras are a little bit jumbled up together. I don't think that necessarily matters in such a fantastical story, but, like, it hits all of these tropes in a very solid way. And again, yeah, like, a lot of us are thinking about it like it's a movie, right? But, like, the things that it does with the interactive elements that are only possible in a video game really kind of, like, elevate the experience for me personally. Where, like, you use this medium to tell a story in a way that is a little bit more fantastical, right? Like, the feeling of building up a baseball field in your imagination while the Transformers movie theme song plays. The feeling of floating through rolling fields on, like, that worry-free afternoon. Like, you basically turn the game into, like, you know, another, like, Journey-esque walking simulator. The feeling of floating backwards when you see that, like, a friend bailed on you and the reason they gave you was a lie, right? Like, that is, sadly, a very prevalent feeling inside of me, right? Like, going into therapy sessions and stuff like that, it captured that feeling so beautifully of, like, you feel lightheaded, you feel empty, and, like, you're just sort of, like, a husk of yourself just floating back to home where it's, like, the safe space, right? Like, it captures the good and the bad beautifully. And it captures, like, even the fireworks whole sequence, right? Like, while the cars start flying up like it's grease, like, that was amazing as well. Like, there's so many of these moments that and Jaren, like, you mentioned it, like, this game knows exactly what it is. The developers knew exactly what this game needed to be, right? And, like, it's combining what would otherwise just be a solid movie with these interactive elements of the medium to tell a very beautiful, albeit previously told story, but in a unique way that is really sort of, like, not something you're gonna get outside of video games. So yeah.
I think with a lot of the mini games in themselves, I think they're all mechanically sound for the most part. I think they're paced pretty well, where they don't really overstay their welcome, unless you're, you know, achievement hunting, of course. Where I think of something like the Skipping Stones minigame, and that gave me a specific piece of nostalgia where after their quick little exchange, you can just end it right there. But that was a surprisingly, I don't want to say deep experience, but the amount of secrets and kind of things you can chain together to unlock other things in that thing was actually really surprising to me.
Yeah.
Where, again, I don't have my memories of Skipping Stones as a youth was me just throwing them into the lake and then realizing, wow, I can't skip stones for shit.
Oh.
But I don't know. There was something just kind of relaxing about that whole moment. And then even just seeing my partner who could just end this at any moment, and then seeing her just skip stone for like a prolonged period of time too, where I think that was also a good choice with some of these mini games where a lot of them don't overstay their welcome, but you could choose if you wanted them to. Like even the kissing mini game, you can have that for like a quick 10 seconds if you want that to be as awkward as Stacy presents it to be, or you can be a sicko who achievement hunts and then have that go for 60 seconds to get the achievement. So I think it all kind of comes together. And you know, even if you're just a fan of skateboarding games and like coasting, I think that's I think the skateboarding stuff appears a few more times, but even that's kind of mechanically sound for the most part. But Matt, as someone who is a fan of video games, I was actually surprised that you said you were going to check it out. And I got to ask, Matt, what did you think of Mixtape?
I think that Mixtape was a very good, like, you know, teenage TV series, and I could not. I think you could not. You know, Jared, you said this. Sort of like this earlier, how you think that this game was made in a vat, basically for you, and I think that you could not have found a game that was less made for me in a vat, because
that's why I'm so surprised you played the game.
Straight up, I think if I didn't know that we were going to be talking about this, I would have dropped this game at the shopping cart mini game, because y'all, this is a Western visual novel, and
yep.
I don't know. I think that the nostalgia for me actually hits on point a lot. Like once I'm glad I got to the slushy part, because that I think was the first real touchstone I had with this game. But I don't know. Just this whole time, okay, the way I played this game was actually very, very weird. Because the whole time I was thinking, oh, this is basically a visual novel, and I wish that we had a... Okay, a lot of the discourse around this is this a game? And when I was thinking about that, I really started thinking, I wish that we had either, like, super category for like, video games as a whole, or, like, a subcategory for, like, what capital G gamers consider video games, right? Like kind of like the distinction between like a video and a movie sort of thing. But
I mean like a TV show and a movie?
No, like a video and a movie. Like this is a video and like this is like a movie. And like this is a TV show. Like both TV shows and movies to me are under the category of videos. If that makes sense. And are
you saying like an in between like games and movies, or
no. I mean something like
Matt, do you just want an FMV? Is that what you're looking for?
I don't like FMV games. No, I'm saying like, okay, when I think of video games, I do consider visual novels to be a separate thing from video games, in kind of the same way that I consider like Microsoft Word to be a separate thing from like a video game. Like it's almost like I want to use the word software for all of these, but software isn't encapsulating like specifically the game part. Like I think it's like software and then the word that I want, and then below that there would be like video games and like visual novels, and like this game, like the word that you would describe use to describe this game.
I mean, interactive experience is a thing, but like, what would you consider a point-and-click adventure game?
See, like...
Is that a game?
I consider that a game because there's enough, like... Okay, I think the thing for me is that the way I played Mixtape is that I half-played every single experience because I wanted to know how much of this was automated, I guess. In the sense that, like, I think in most visual novels, you can just press skip and you'll get to the end of that game for the most part. When you're only picking like story prompts and stuff, or like, you know, some choices that don't in any way deviate the game. Kind of like almost like a Phoenix Wright, right? Like I think that, like, you know, at least, like, for Phoenix Wright and, you know, like, adventure games that you're talking about, there is, like, the application of logic that you need to go through, but, like, it is for the most part like I consider those the in between like I consider like Phoenix Wright and what do you call it? Like adventure games to be the kind of in between like capital G gamer games and visual novels, if that makes sense. But
yeah, I mean, ultimately it's like personal interpretation on those things, right? So like, yeah, if that's how you're categorizing it.
Well, like going back to like Mixtape, yeah, like this is like could not be less for me because I also like I mentioned this a lot of times on the Mixtape. So I am a person who doesn't listen to music, and I think I did not have a single musical touchstone at all in this game. Like, did you guys like know a lot of these songs when you like heard them,
Like a
or no?
solid 90% of them, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where I think this was something I talked to with my partner, where as like the time period, and Rakushi, you briefly touched upon it as well, because this is really kind of a hodgepodge of different genres and musical times, where I think they are trying to present this specific 90s, but it's still an early 90s blend.
Early
but
90s.
then you have a lot of different kind of songs from, I guess, just different eras and different kind of genres as well. That it's a really good mix. I really did like how curated it is. But one thing for me personally was, while I recognized some of the artists, some of the songs in particular, it's kind of just before what I would consider my introductory period to music, where I think if it was just a few years later, maybe like 3, and even as drastically as 10 years later, that would be a different game in particular. But I think while I had some musical attachment to it, it wasn't as strong as these weren't my golden years of music per se. So that's kind of where I fall. And I don't know, Rakush, what did you think of the soundtrack that was curated?
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from with the sort of like not being from that era, right? But I think the thing that my sort of like music experience really kind of started grade 11 onwards. And I think a big reason for that has to do with more around just sort of like, hey, we're still kids, we're figuring out our own voices. It took me a little bit longer to figure out that voice as a new immigrant to the country. Like, I'd moved here when I was 11. By the time I got to high school, it only really, like, I'd only finally sort of like started feeling a little bit more settled in just the country, let alone in the school, right? So that was one part of it. But then, yeah, like once college started, once university started, I think I really went back and listened to a ton more things from like the 70s and the 80s as well, because I think in that era for me, like I was starting to sort of like go beyond just like, you know, the very aggressive rah-rah hip-hop music or like the rah-rah aggressive sort of like punk music. Not even punk music, because I think punk was a little bit too angsty, but like metal, let's say, right? So like, I think sort of like expanding my horizons a little bit more. And I think it might also have had to do a lot more with having like more digital storage space and stuff like that. I definitely felt a lot more sort of like, hey, like this is cool music. The music itself in this game is not what made me feel nostalgic necessarily, except for the Transformers song. But like, yeah, I certainly thought it was a very well curated soundtrack, right? Which honestly, it kind of needed to be, considering the whole plot point being that this lady wants to be a music supervisor. So, yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I think, because for me, like, I gained music consciousness with, like, Hit Me Baby One More Time by Beatles. I think that was, like, the era for me of, like around, like, Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls. That was when I received a modicum of, like, music consciousness. So I think for me, like, when it came to the music soundtrack, I think it was less about what I recognized, because I think this goes into a bigger conversation of, like, these days, I'm not sure how in tune you guys are with, like, the theater scene, but I think a lot of, like, jukebox musicals are becoming really popular now. Like, like Juliet. I can't remember the full name, but I think, like,
Juliet,
yeah, but, like, there's a lot of, like, like, jukebox musicals that are becoming a bit more prevalent, and I think for me, I recognized, especially with the lead up to the release of the game, that this feels like a personal project for like the writers and the creators, because like of their idea of like putting this conceit of music into the game. I think for me, like, it was less for me about recognizing the songs and more about like kind of meeting them where they are trying to take me in terms of like art, in terms of like music. Like, what are you trying to say with the music catalog that you are presenting? So I didn't personally recognize a lot of the music minus the touch, because that is like, you know,
Iconic.
Transformers.
Yeah.
Nostalgic Transformers. But for me, like, it was less about like recognizing specific songs, but more so about like what is the song doing in this moment. I think is kind of where I was at.
Yeah, like it speaks a lot to sort of like what you were describing earlier, right? Like it's a certain vagueness to all of it, but the feeling is what is familiar. Like it's the specifics might not necessarily hit you, but the feeling for sure does. I think also like you said something that might also explain why like the discourse has been what it is around this game, right? Where you are approaching this in the way I approach this, which is let the author, let the artist take you where they want to take you.
Yeah, it's like a curated experience.
Yeah. Whereas with like capital G gaming, as Matt described it, like a lot of it is where do you want to go? And I think like there's a certain clash in approaches to like what those experiences can be or need to be, right? So like that is part of it. I don't think that's the only reason, but yeah, that is for sure part of it.
Dude, I crashed out so hard during the baseball scene when they took away, because okay, I think the baseball scene is like maybe immediately after or like 2 steps after the stone skipping scene, right?
Yep.
And like Jaren said, you had infinite time in the stone skipping scene, and for me that was like the first mini game thing in here that felt like a game to me. So when I got to the baseball scene like pretty closely after, I was like, oh okay, we video gaming now. And
right
I was really
but I think it's okay. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I was really enjoying the gameplay for when Stacy was there, because she was bad at it. Like, it gave me, I felt like I was playing.
It was relatable.
Oh yeah, I felt like I was playing what is it called? Like Christopher Robin in the 100 Acre Woods baseball.
Fuck. That fucker. Oh
and I was
God.
like, oh yeah, this is hitting me real good right now.
Tinker pitching.
And then they took it away after I think like 3 or 5 pitches, and then we went to Cassandra or Cassandra's is her name, right?
Cassandra.
Yeah.
Like, who was good at it, and I didn't like that. But sorry, Joel, what were you gonna say?
No, I think I'm like, I think there's a part of me that is kind of grappling with what you're talking about with, and not to invalidate like your thoughts, because it is like a perfectly valid position. Because it is the long-standing argument of talk about what makes a video game, right? Because for some people, the idea is like video game is kind of just like interactivity, which if you want to take it on a base level, there is interactivity in this game. But at the same time, it's like, I guess that there's also a question of like, would it be a video game? Is there a difference between meaningful interactivity versus just interactivity?
Yes.
Because there have been playthroughs of like Mixtape, and I'm sure a lot of these are done in like either in jest or in more so of like a negative perspective of like trying to play as far as they can through Mixtape without like touching the controller, for example. So like if you approach it in that regard, then it's a question of like, is interactivity enough? Because like if you can interact but it doesn't do anything, like is that enough to be considered a video game? But then for me, there's also an aspect of like meaningful interactivity, and I feel like, and again, the problem is a lot of this is subjective and it is all feelings. There are moments of this game where I feel like there is moments of meaningful interactivity. Like, for example, like I don't want to spoil the ending, but like the last prompt, I feel like puts into focus the entire theme of what they're trying to say. Right? It's like these idea of like these moments and being in these moments and kind of feeling like you're leaving these moments.
Yeah.
when it's like it's kind of like trying to take that, and it's like I know at the end of the day you break it down, and if you get into game theory, you're kind of just like holding a button. But I think because of everything around it, because of like the lead up to it, the conceit of the whole theme, I feel like it kind of adds an extra layer of meaning to it. But again, it is that thing of like, at the end of the day, if you do break down game theory, you are just holding a button.
Yeah. Honestly, that part so heavily reminded me of the ending of Brothers.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Yes. Yeah. I think to kind of go back to the skipping stones in the baseball part, Matt, that you were talking about, right? Like, I again, like, I totally understand, like, the point of view that you're approaching those two from is a little bit different. I think it was perfectly fine for me for the skipping stones to not be a timed thing because of the general vibe of that scene.
Yeah.
Versus the baseball scene was a specific conversation that Cass and Stacy were having with each other, right? So, like, I think sort of like the timed nature there makes a little bit more sense because it's a scene and the scene is done. Like, once, like, you know, the big thing happens sort of thing, right? So that's also where I think sort of like the things that the developers and the storytellers were prioritizing with Mixtape was the story, right? Like, it's not the gameplay. I don't think I don't think any of us can sit here and say, like, oh my god, the gameplay fantastic. It's very bare bones. Like, it's not a lot of gameplay for them to polish. But I think sort of like knowing when to end one of those scenes is just as important for a video game because it's like, again, like, you're kind of taking that control away from an interactive experience, right? And that can absolutely sort of like rub people the wrong way. But knowing that that baseball scene needed to end when it needed to end, I think was also like really well done in my perspective personally. So
no, I do think that it was like, as a whole, I do think that the game did progress at like a very good pace. Really, the only thing that really like pissed me off about the game in particular is that you can't, and this is just like a computer thing, if you defocus the game, it pauses itself. So I can't second monitor the game while like the story is going.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, like overall, I was like, you know, hitting on the millennial experience part, like it really hit for me. Like, going back again to that end scene for me was, I wasn't there for it, but it reminded me so much of when Julian was leaving for China.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
there
man.
was,
I think
there's a lot of that scene that actually reminded me of Julian. I actually messaged him as well. I'm like, hey man, that cul-de-sac looked awfully familiar for some reason. And then, there's a whole cover around that.
Yeah, like, I didn't want to, like, I don't know, because again, I don't want to be a weird. I don't want to be weird and center myself a lot of the times.
But Julian's the main character.
No, I think they're definitely.
I'm Jenny Goodspeed.
Jenny Matt fucking Alba.
Yeah. I think there were moments of this game that really hit for me because there has been aspects of my life where I was the kind of like the Stacy, where I was the one that was like, I have this, you know, friends group, like this amazing friends group. Like, I grew up with them. Like, I spent a lot of time with them. And there was a moment in my life where I thought about like leaving and then actually left. So I think like, again, like, it is, I don't know, it's weird because like it is like it's trying to balance that idea of like what a game is versus like what a game means to you. If I just take this game as like what it means to me, like it like really hit like really hard for me personally because of like literally being like seeing myself in a lot of the characters, but specifically like what Stacy like is going through and what Stacy kind of has planned. Like this idea of like, I could stay here. I could stay here with the people that I care about. I could stay here where I feel safe, but like at the same time, it's like, it's not what I picture for me. So I kind of have to make that active choice. I
think like, to be fair to you from like my perspective as well, right? You were one of the first persons, like one of my first friends that actually did leave like, you know, our hometown and went and did something as well. So like in many ways, like this story, I totally understand why like it would be a little bit more like, hey, yeah, this is just like when Julian left for like China, right? For me, it was more so like when you left for Thunder Bay in the first place. Like that was also sort of like a very similar feeling there. But like, I think for me personally, like, yeah, like when you talk about your experiences, you were one of the first friends of mine that decided to go and like, you know, go live in a different place, right? Then like Jaren, you also eventually did that. I did that as well. So like, I think in many ways, like we've all sort of had that experience. I know Matt, like even like you've thought about that, right? And you've thought about the impacts of that. If like, even though you haven't necessarily gone through that experience, you know what going through that experience means as well, especially when we talk about like more conversations around like buying a house or like, you know, moving into your own spaces and stuff like that. So it's super relatable. I think all of us totally understand like the implications of like, you know, just staying in your comfort zones versus like, you know, challenging yourself or like pushing yourself to take more risks, I guess, right? And like go learn about yourself. And
where there are three more points that I want to touch real quickly. And Matt, in true Mistake Zone fashion, I love how this segment will probably be just as long as the game itself. But the first, I guess I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Like the first thing that after I finished my playthroughs, because I'm a pro mixtape gamer, is this idea that I think, as unfortunate as it is, I think the initial high scores of this game really did this game a disservice in terms of, you know, that quote unquote discourse, where at the end of the day, like, honestly speaking, if this game just immediately got, you know, a bunch of 7s, a bunch of 8s, like that score range, no one's talking about this game. Like, if I had to be completely honest, where I think a lot of the, you know, the criticisms I'm seeing, and maybe this is just what internet discourse is in 2026, is just a lot of, I feel like, negative for the sake of negative, almost to kind of to prove a point that this game cannot be that good for X, Y, and Z reasons, or, you know, this is paid, these reviews are paid, or, you know, this, that, just all these reasons to kind of disparage the game, where it's so surreal to kind of just see this quote unquote online backlash, for lack of a better term, when at the end of the day, no one talks about this game if there's no 10s. But at the same time, you know, Julian, this was something we talked about too, where if you kind of look at those initial reviews and how the game's media landscape kind of skews to a certain demographic where, speaking about being made for that, this game does scream like it was made specifically for the same type of people who are currently reviewing games. And, you know, for better or for worse, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, just because that's what the experience you're kind of getting out of it. Where, I don't know, like, this game, I really do adore this game, but at the same time, I can like see does it compare to the other visual novels that I've played in the past? And while it personally does, it is still kind of in that same vein as a Napoleon Dynamite, as like a Juno or a Little Miss Sunshine, where these are the quirky movies that I'm personally watching every year. And with Mixtape, I could definitely see myself just going back to this every now and then, you know, a few years down the road.
Jaren,
but at the same time, like,
it's really interesting what movies you named versus the movies and shows I named.
And maybe we can get into that a bit later real quick. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's weird where this is such a game that you'll know if you like it. And for it to kind of blow up the way it did kind of just speaks volumes about like the current industry and just the current way people discuss games. And I don't know, that's kind of how I am feeling. But Julian, any thoughts on that?
I think, okay, so I went really up and down because, so I finished this game and then I tried to look at the discourse around online. And like, I don't know, man. I feel like, and I know this is probably going to be the coldest take ever, but I feel like discourse is dead. Like, there's no nuance to discourse anymore. It's just this machinations of like how to knock down something. And it's like there's such an inability for people to kind of just recognize that this isn't for me, so I'm gonna just move on. It has to be like, this isn't for me, therefore I must tear it down. It's like this thing where like Jaren kind of mentioned this idea of like, this is created in a vat specifically for a specific demographic, and I would agree with that. Like the people who are reviewing right now are people who probably got into journalism, probably millennials, probably grew up in the same circumstances as the characters of these games, so therefore they're going to really kind of like match with it. But at the same time, like, I feel like there's also an inability to look outside of yourself, because like there are times in video games where I am playing a character that isn't relevant to me, but I still am able to connect to that character, right? Like, one of my favorite games in the world is Disco Elysium. I am not a drunk cop. I am not.
You're not?
I am not
What?
a drunk cop.
Julian,
I'm
you could
not
be.
even close to that. Yeah. But like, there is still so much humanity in the characters of Disco Elysium that like, there is still that idea of connection, and I can make that connection. But like, I don't know. It's like I mentioned this to Jaren when I was talking about this thing, but it's this thing that I've been kind of just noticing more and more. So like, I go on Reddit sometimes, and sometimes Reddit kind of feeds you random subreddits. And it feeds me the High Guard subreddit a lot for some reason. Maybe because I do click into it and I'm like, I like to read, but like High Guard, like when that came out and it kind of shut down, like, okay, before it shut down, the entire High Guard subreddit was just talking about this idea of like hating this game and like wanting it to shut down and like trying to tear it down. And then High Guard did shut down. And then you would think, right? Like, you would think the goal has been met. Like, High Guard is shut down, High Guard is dead, like, you won. But like, it didn't. It continues. And like, I still get posts from the High Guard subreddit talking about this idea of now they've moved on to other games like Marathon, or like even like games that I've never even heard of. Like, just like these games that like are free to play but like super small and like don't have a big audience. But like, they would like latch onto it just to like, find that. And it's weird because like, I understand it, because on some level, like, I grew up in high school going on 4chan a lot. And I got really swept onto like when Knights of the Old Republic, the MMORPG, came out, and there was such a concerted effort of like seeing that fail. Like, they even had that name for it, the Tortanic, like TORTTINAC, like comparing it to the Titanic. And like, it's like, it's weird because like, I recognize like this feeling of hatred is like so addictive, right? Like, yeah, it's especially if it succeeds. Like, you hate something and then you see it fail, so like, on some level it kind of like feeds into this like ego of like, you hated something and it failed, therefore you are right. And it's like, I don't know, I just, it's a little disheartening, I think, for me to kind of just, I think this was when I kind of realized that I'm like, I feel like discourse, I just need to like disconnect. Because like, it's just it's
No, you have to let the hate flow through you.
You have to feel it. You have to marinate in it.
You gotta be Scorpion.
You gotta feed off it. You gotta feed off it.
Just burn down your garden because High Guard is back.
Oh man.
Can I be honest about this whole discourse thing as well? I don't think it is necessarily that people hate Mixtape, because I genuinely don't think there's enough of Mixtape for people to hate it. I think it's more that there has been a recent trend of people's shiny new toys being shat on, and that is what is upsetting them when they see a game like Mixtape get a 10, right? So like, Crimson Desert, Mouse PI, those have gotten fairly mixed scores, low scores from an IGN, for example. That's IGN is sort of like the starting point for a lot of this, right? And those got like low-ish scores there, and then all of a sudden Mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. And so I think like, it's less about what Mixtape is actually trying to be and more about people shitting on Mixtape as a way to shit on the quote-unquote current state of the industry or games journalism.
Yeah.
That has been going on since fucking Gamergate from 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
That is an ongoing thing that ties in very much into what you're talking about, is that there is no discourse online anymore. It is just either you're arguing with a bot or you're arguing with a person that is so in the weeds with, like, you know, just these sort of experiences that there is not, like, there's a saying I've heard is that Twitter is where people go to be angry. Yeah. Which is absolutely true, I think. Like, again, considering, like, I've been off it for like a year and a half at this point, I've not been as angry in the last year and a half, at least for, you know, those reasons. And yeah, so, like, you know, I think for me, it has more to do with people being far too invested in these other things that are not being acknowledged. Sometimes quite literally in the case of Crimson Desert, where you need like a super high-end like computer to play it. It's kind of a very massive time sink. And then all of a sudden someone's telling you, oh, but it's not that great. You might feel a little bit defensive about that, right? Like all the jokes that we've done with the Fantasy Critic League aside, like that is unfortunately the reality of the discourse online with a lot of those things. And so then, yeah, like you do come to a mixtape and it opens up with a 96 and people are like, how the fuck? Like, it's a visual novel, right? Like what Matt is saying. And I'm not saying Matt is necessarily like part of the discourse or anything like that.
You're saying I'm right. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree.
right. Yeah. But no, I genuinely don't think it has anything to do with mixtape, because I think for me it is important to, at this point at least, approach, and this is again going back to what Julian said, where is the developer, where is the author trying to take you with these experiences? What are they trying to achieve? Judge something for what it is trying to be, not what you want it to be, right? Like, there are some instances where, sure, like, hey, maybe I would have loved to have seen a little bit more gamification of this certain element, but you're not talking about changing the entire thing to be an open world sprawling game. Like, that's where sort of like things fall, like where the disconnect is and things fall flat, is there's this whole thing about, like, you know, games need to be this, whereas like we kind of came of age, like we became young adults at a time when indie games were far more, I would say, well, far more popping, for lack of a better term, than maybe they are now. But that's just more the state of the current games industry is such that, like, you know, things aren't necessarily as easy to find. So like we saw what games could be expand in like the 2010s. Like it could be virtually anything, right? Like Telltale became super popular in the 2010s because of just a newfound understanding that you don't need to have a shooter, like, you know, gray tone game. Like it can be its own thing. Point and click games can be its own thing. 2D platformers, like 8-bit games, made a comeback as well. Why? Because that's something that indie developers could make. At the same time, we've also seen, like, you know, a lot of just sort of homage games come out as well, right? Like, I think maybe we're back at a place again where people might need to be reminded of that. I don't know, but I also don't care enough to necessarily be online enough for this discourse. Yeah. I have my thoughts on it, but I just don't want to be online for that stuff, right? So, yeah, I think like a lot of this has more to do with the state of like, or people's perception of the state of other things, and not actually about Mixtape itself.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think like just to kind of like cap off like my thoughts on it, like the 100% agree with everything you say. I do think it is kind of more so of Mixtape and more so just the general gaming landscape and in terms of review landscape. But I think for me, what was really disheartening for me really is kind of just, and I recognize this is like outside of the purview of this podcast, outside of the purview of every single metric of like, you know, 4 friends kind of sitting down and talking about it. But I think it is kind of just, is what was disheartening for me is kind of just like this state of the world where anger is kind of like at a premium. Anger is kind of like at the forefront, where anger is kind of like, you know, like the feeling of like, you kind of like feels like the default feeling for like a lot of people. And I think that's kind of where more so I was going with. But I 100%
I agree with
everything you said.
I do agree with you about that for sure.
And kind of when you kind of take all of that kind of at a grander level, and then you see what kind of Mixtape is, where again, the biggest problems that these three characters are facing are so little compared to what you look back on. At like the end of the day, one reason why I think this game is getting such high reviews, especially, and why it's touched so many of these different online critics, is the fact that it's so the opposite of what we just talked about, where, you know, I think one point is there's no screens in this. There's no like bickering. I think the worst is Stacy's treatment of like Jenny. And I feel like we can save that for like another episode.
That felt very teenage to me, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt, no surprise, Jenny did nothing wrong.
I think it ties into my only criticism of this game, actually, which is I wish that whole interaction between the three of them were explained a little bit more. But I also understand that as a semi-unreliable narrator, maybe it's not something Stacy had necessarily sort of like, you know, thought about and put into words or anything like that either, right? But like, it does kind of feel like after that whole thing about like her seeing Cass and Jenny together on a day where like Cass said she's not feeling well, it kind of feels like it happens and you don't necessarily get a full-on resolution to that, or it doesn't necessarily feel like it ties into what happens later in the game as well. So like there's a few different things like that where it's almost like I think I agree with you that Jenny did nothing wrong, but like I don't think it's necessarily like explored enough, you know, that like it's more just like you might feel a way about Jenny because of the narrator herself.
Yeah, it's just Stacy being a hater. It's just Stacy being a hater.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I stand with Jenny. I know this is going on long. Just two things real quick. One, boys, you know what sold me on this game? That introductory scene, the Devo song. I've literally played that half a dozen times.
Nice.
I played it with my guitar controller because when these started clapping along with the song, I knew this game was for me.
Yeah.
I knew this game was for me. I love that segment so much.
What are your guys' like favorite mini game in this? Is that one yours, Sharon?
It has to be the intro. I like everything from the music to the vibes to just how it was produced. Plus, you know me, Matt. I love playing skate and just sometimes bombing hills. And I thought, as a skateboarding bombing mini game, I thought it was pretty good. How about you, Rakush?
I was simple mid. You give me baseball and you got the touch. I kind of like that. But I do, again, want to give a huge shout out to like that whole scene where like she's floating backwards. It just doesn't feel like a mini game to me. So, yeah.
Also, shout out to the skateboarding scene when Stacy is flipping off everything and they're exploding. That's a specific teenage feeling. I love that it was there.
Yeah.
How about you, Julian?
I mean, this is definitely carried by a lot of other things outside of gameplay, but the last flyby, like the last last scene flying, like I really like that.
It's that scene is so relatable as well, right? Like
it's like this is the end. Like this is this is kind of like your last time together.
Like mild spoilers. Slater basically talking about the high school and going like basically like cussing it out sort of thing, right? But then like I remember doing that a little bit with like our high school, and then I still drive past that school at this point. So it's this idea that like we're saying goodbye to something that's still very much present in our lives. It's kind of like that was a really funny sort of thing.
How about you, Matt? What was your favorite minigame?
My favorite minigame is so arbitrary because it's relating to a meme that I think nobody else has seen, which is the first flying scene when they're flying to the Ritz in the open field. Because there's a very specific meme that is based on a Burberry commercial where they're flying through a field and someone overlaid it as a meme of like POV how it feels listening to the Don Da Don opening, and they're just playing the Don Da Don opening for it.
See, you do listen to music.
I listen to anime openings, Shakush. It's a difference.
That's music. Thank you very much.
Oh, man.
If you mod this game to have anime characters and anime music.
Oh, man. Yo, I'm on. Let's go. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Where I think this brings me to my last point, where I was watching the or reading through the credits just to see who was playing who and all that stuff, and I got to the portion that the localization teams for all these different languages, and I think at the end of the day, what I love most about Mixtape is kind of its potential as well, where I think if this were to become like an anthology series that gives you kind of these slice of life coming of age stories from all these different locations, all these different eras, and of course their own specific music styles and playlists to go around with that, I think this could be a really cool vehicle just to see all these different just all these different pieces of youth, where of course I want to see the anime one, but I do want to also see what's one that's in a more urban city environment, what's one from South America, what's one from Europe, what's something from like Africa. And I feel like if you're able to find the right writers, and that you can still do something, I feel like this has a lot of legs, where I'm not sure if you guys have played Despelote. I'm not sure if we even talked about that game on the Mistake Zone before, but just as someone who has no kind of affinity for, football or soccer, and who isn't really that in tune with, say, Latin American culture, just to play something like that and see, this coming of age story through that lens was just something that I can really appreciate. And I really do hope this kind of, even if it isn't from the same devs, but just this idea of being able to have these slices of life moments throughout different perspectives, I think would be really cool. And of course, I thought when you were running the field, that's anime, boys. Just throw in any OP, and
it's Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura.
That's where my neurons come in.
Weirdly enough, that's where I went to.
But boys, that was Mixtape, really beefy. I'm pretty sure that was longer than the game itself.
Last thing, if I can just say one last thing about this, right? Sure. Because I think the way I started my thoughts on like Mixtape, I just need to put a bow on sort of all of this stuff. I did mention how sort of like this is not a lived experience for me. The feelings are universal. But one of the things about this that I did just want to really sort of like reiterate is there's a certain aspirational nature to sort of like these stories as well that I have personally always sort of experienced as someone that lived in a different country, right? Like watching Ferris Bueller in India, watching like Wonder Years in India, there was a certain expectation that I had about like, high school and like just school culture and life and stuff like that. And while things might not have necessarily been that for me, it is still this thing that even at 36, I remember that feeling of like, oh man, this is what I really wanted things to be like, right? And I think that also really just sort of resonated a lot with me as well. And again, I wanted to say all that to say that like nothing about this game should be taken too literal, in my personal opinion, of like, oh, I didn't skate down a hill in a small town. This doesn't relate to me. No, but like you can absolutely still sort of like appreciate the feelings and the emotions as we've been talking about. So yeah, just wanted to put that last little point in there.
No, definitely. Like, again, this isn't a one-to-one experience, and I kind of, it's one of those things where one criticism I keep hearing is, these aren't good characters, like, I hate these characters, blah, blah, blah. But it's one of those things where, honestly, if we all really look deep into ourselves, we might not be one-to-one these characters, but there are parts of us in these characters as well that maybe we don't want to take a look at. And I think that's what the beauty of this game is, where, as Rakush said, this isn't the end-all be-all experience, but if this is something you want to partake in, maybe you might be able to see parts of yourself and parts of, your experiences. And I think that can be celebrated.
Also, I'll say it's $25.
What's up?
Canadian.
Yeah. But boys, you know what I like to celebrate? When my friends compete in the Don't Match Me challenge, where every week, one of us will bring forth 5 questions, and all you have to do listening at home is make sure your answers don't match our own. If you want to play on the Stacy difficulty, simply don't match me. But if you want to play on the friendship difficulty, the Stacy, Cass, and Slater difficulty, don't match Matt, Rakush, and Julian as well. And boys, we talked about some mixtape. So here's my, let's say mixtape adjacent Don't Match Me challenge, where hopefully we're able to go down a specific route of memory lane that might not be one-to-one to you, but maybe you can find something through it. Where, just right off the bat, question 1, name any song that plays or is referenced in Mixtape. Name any song. Let's just say any song from the video game Mixtape.
I kind of read your mind because I knew that was going to be the first question.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, friends, if you said Cass's song, This Is How We Do It by Montel Jordan, you're out. I'm bummed that you didn't actually play it, but I like that it was mentioned as Cass's song. But
I do wonder if that had to do with them actually just not getting the license for that one.
I could see it, but I think I don't know, maybe that was just pandering on its part as well. Matt, what was your song?
I went with Michitaito because I like that set of words and sounds together.
Good sounds. Rakush?
I went with Portishead Roads. Because, that scene was really cool.
Rakush? When we were exploring Stacy's room and I picked up the Portishead CD, I thought, damn, this really was a game made for me. Julian, how about you?
I did The Touch by Stan Bush.
Of course. Good pick.
Mm-hmm.
Question 2. We played with our boy. I mean, that was weird. We played as Slater, on something, wandering through a video rental store.
Yes. That scene made me feel so bad for the video store employee. Oh man, I tried so hard not to knock anything over because I felt bad.
Same here. I didn't even know I knocked down the display stand, and he mentioned it. I was like, "Did I?" And I looked back, and it was.
Oh no!
So Matt, you're telling me you didn't get the achievement for knocking down 200 videotapes and knocking down all 5 cutout standees?
Jaren, I held RT the whole time when I realized I gave you more control. But you moved slower.
But guys, question 2. Let's go back to the video rental store. Name any movie genre you would see a display in your video rental store. So essentially just name any general movie genre that you would see kind of in a video rental store. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Friends, if you said horror, you're out.
Ooh.
Matt?
I'm going with one of the few genres that I watch at one time speed. I'm going with comedy.
Good answer. Rakush?
I'm going with animation. Shout out to the Rogers video that used to be near us where I watched Street Fighter 2 for the first time.
That's a good one. How about you, Julian?
I did romantic comedies.
Good one.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that would just be romance in the movies, but I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
Oh, would it? Okay.
Yeah. Matt, do you have a Blockbuster video rental store memory that might have triggered when you were doing this moment?
I mean, I have 2 Blockbuster memories, and one of them is you trying to get Rock Band from one, and the other is trying to rent. Oh man, I don't know, trying to rent some game and ending up with 1080 snowboarding, and I didn't want to play 1080 snowboarding.
Oh man!
Remember when the Blockbuster near Jaren's house was shutting down?
I thought that was a Rogers video.
Yeah, I think that was Rod. But there was a Blockbuster that also shut down, which I thought was closer to your place growing up, Julian.
Oh, it was. It was closer to my house. It was it was near the Taco Bell.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Taco Bell.
Yep. I think that's a KFC now. I think that's.
There's quite a few Taco Bells opening up though.
Did you know you get Doritos Locos Crunch Wraps now?
Oh, yes. That I did not know.
No.
Oh man.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, bro. Question 3. Pretty simple. Mixtape is all about music. So name an audio format. So name any audio format.
I might match with Matt on this one, I think.
Maybe.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Friends, of course, I have to say vinyl records. If you said vinyl records, you're out.
Oh,
I misunderstood.
I thought, yeah.
I fully misunderstood.
Well, no, you guys can say an audio.
Okay.
It's technically still an audio format. Matt, what did you say?
I said FLAC.
Good format.
Oh, man.
Okay, we survived. I went with OGG.
Julian?
I went with .midi, midi.
Oh
Okay.
man,
Oh, yeah.
classic, a
Because
classic.
it's the only one I could upload on AsianAvenue.com.
Classic.
Oh man,
classic.
shout out Asian Avenue.
All right, friends.
Oh man.
You guys open.
Do you guys remember when you could add code to not have people right click and inspect your
Yep.
HTML code?
God.
Good
Yes.
days.
All right, fucking Asian Avenue and like the guest book,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
if you visited and didn't sign, you're lame. Or like
Yeah.
all the gifts you could like put
Oh.
on.
Oh man.
Oh.
Let's go back to those days.
I can't wait for the mixtape that
I mean,
has that era as well. That's the one we'll also have a 3-hour episode on. So.
I mean, that was Emily's Away a little bit. I
Mhm.
think Emily's Away, was that the name of the game?
Yeah.
oh my god.
Well, that was Facebook era though.
Oh, okay.
We need like something earlier than Facebook.
Yeah,
era.
pre-Facebook.
Matt, that reminded me. I just when I watched Obsession, there was a trailer called for a movie called I think Finding Emily. Boys, that was one of the worst trailers I've ever seen because that was one of those. Hey, this is the entire movie with a lot of the specific plot points showed throughout the movie itself, the trailer itself, and God, we're cooked, boys, we're cooked. But
Cook product.
you opened the floodgate, so friends, let's just get into it. Name any P2P file sharing network or sharing client.
Ooh.
This is the first Don't Match Me where I haven't had to look anything
Yep.
up.
Mhm.
Name any P2P file sharing network or client. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boys, allegedly, I might have some experience with a WinMX. So if you said WinMX, you're out.
Ooh.
Matt, what allegedly do you know of?
I allegedly remember using a P2P software called Kazaa or Keza. I don't
Damn.
know how people say it.
Oh,
Allegedly, though. Allegedly.
I said Kazaa.
Allegedly.
Rikush?
We allegedly matched Matt.
We are the two peers.
If you were allegedly, listening to West Side Connections, Gangster, something and Dope Dealer.
.exe. Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Or, allegedly watching those Dragon Ball Z Broly FMVs.
Oh man.
AMVs, sorry.
How about you, Julian?
I just went with the classic, allegedly. Napster.
Yep. Allegedly.
All right, careful now. Careful, Metallica might pop up.
And boys, final question for the mixtape Don't Match Me challenge. Name any character from the video game Mixtape. Name any character from the video game Mixtape. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the coolest girl on the block, Camille, you're out.
Oh god. Oh man.
How about you, Matt? Who's your Mixtape character?
I couldn't remember his last name, but I went with the dude who said, "Enjoy your time at the top, amigo," which is Kyle.
Kyle's so
That guy.
cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Boys,
Oh man.
how many times did you flip people off when you were Slater at the party?
Oh, I didn't know that was a button.
Accidentally flipped off people I didn't want to.
Yeah. I did that
Oh,
once
man.
and I was like, oh, they're looking at me weird now. I'm not going to flip them off.
I didn't know it was a button because I think on the controller it was Y. But I was just pressing A and B, and I thought X was supposed to be one of them, but X was doing nothing. So I was like, oh dang. So I was just doing A and B, which is like waving, I think, and like the thumbs up, or no, the peace sign.
You sign and the finger point. I love the finger point. Rakush, what character you got?
Actually, went with Slater. Because also, I didn't want to flip people off because honestly, they were like, Slater was kind of seemed like a very chill dude, like very, positive guy.
And fine.
And he flips people off like friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I saw the reaction wasn't friendly, and I was like, oh, okay.
So some people were, you know who I flipped off? That guy who was talking to Cass. I was bummed you couldn't save Cass from that interaction at the end. How about you, Julian? Who'd you get?
I chose Jenny freaking Goodspeed
Oh.
because I think if
Freaking.
there was, I think there was like a freaking. I think if there's a different version of this game, I definitely agree with Rakush, and I would like a bit more, maybe like a wrap up or conclusion with the whole Jenny Goodspeed thing.
I mean, they were talking at the end, so maybe they cool.
Yeah, I suppose
Yeah,
that's enough. Yeah,
I think I just wanted more resolution on screen.
yeah.
Well, okay, like she defended the music, so I
Yeah.
think maybe that's enough for Stacy.
Yeah.
'Cause that was her whole
Yeah,
beef,
fair.
I think, right? Or that was her beef.
Ish.
No,
I think
I feel
it's
like-
implied more so the fact that, like she's a friend, like she's Cass's friend outside of the group.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like she's quote unquote stealing Cass away.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's like a little bit of that.
True.
But yeah. Boys, and that was this week's episode or portion of Don't Match Me. Hopefully you didn't match us. And boys, that was a beefy boy episode in Mistake Zone fashion. Matt, this reminds me of the time we would review anime episodes that were longer than the anime itself. Good times.
Yep.
That's the real
Classic.
nostalgia here for this week's episode of the Mistake
Oh,
Zone. But
2019 Mistake Zone is is a vibe. Jared.
can't wait for the mixtape of that era of the Mistake Zone. But
Oh man.
as always, I got to thank my best friends in the whole wide world for joining me this week. First off, I got to thank Matt for joining me editing this podcast. Matt, how do you think the road trip went for Jenny, Slater, and Cass?
Oh, I mean probably okay.
Okay. Also, I want to thank another one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Rakush, for joining me this week. Hey, Rakush.
What up, Jaren?
Does Stacy make it?
Yeah, let's say yeah. Yeah. You know,
Reluctant,
guys-
yes.
do you guys think they would, like, Jenny, Slater, and Cass would listen to the Mistake Zone on the road trip?
No, they would listen to music.
That's actually
What did they?
that's actually a good thought. So I also want to thank Julian for joining me this week. Hey, Julian,
What's that?
how much music is being played now that Stacy's not on that road trip?
True.
That's what I was just thinking of now that you brought this question up. Because, like, I would assume, because, like, in the intro, it's inferred that they don't know how to create mixtapes outside of Stacy. Because Stacy introduced, like, the whole setup was that it's the first time Stacy made a CD based mixtape, and they've been. Oh no, but Slater does use
Slater, yeah.
cassettes. He does use.
I think it's more
cassettes.
like who picks the music, because I feel
Yeah.
like the Jenny that has been set up in Stacy's mind probably picks the music, but I actually think she would be chill with whatever Slater plays.
Where I
Yes.
do like how Cass still has the boy band posters in her room, where I don't think it's going to be as curated as if Stacy was there. I think it's going to be like a mix of everything, and Slater's just a chill dude. He'll
Yeah.
actually.
Wasn't there a list of maybe I'm
Yeah, there was a list
misremembering
on,
this. Wasn't there a list of mixtape road?
Yeah.
trip
In Stacy's
in
room.
Stacy's
room.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, boys, beefy boy episode of the Mistake Zone. Thank you as always, and Matt, I'll see you tomorrow. So please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of holding the trigger buttons.
Oh.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say we're all out of discourse because the discourse is dead.
Nah, you let the hate flow through you, Raku.
Yeah.